Father, thank you for another lovely session of teaching moments. Today, we're going to be having Ufuomaee come talk to us about her book, The Naive Wife. So, Lord, we just ask that you grant her grace to speak boldly and help us understand the mystery of marriage. In Jesus' name, amen. Ufoma, it's all yours. I believe
Amen.
everybody knows you, though. I mean, you wrote this amazing book called The Naive Wife. I was you had given me some advanced copies, and I was just keeping it on until I knew I would have time to read it. And then I got on a trip and decided to take the book with me. My goodness, it was the best and the worst decision for me, because the best because it was an amazing book. The worst because I had sleep. I couldn't sleep. I stayed up all night reading the book, and jet lag just messed me up. So if you want to travel, just stay home and read that book. Otherwise, you're not going to put it down until you finish all three of them. And I'm glad I took all three with me, because I mean, I was just reading them back to back. So Ufoma, welcome. We're happy to have you here. This is a Kingdom community which you are now a part of, and we want to hear
Yay!
your thoughts around the book. Just tell us your heart around the book, and then we'll come back for Q&A at the back end. Okay, it's all yours.
Okay. I thought you said there's an audio you're going to share.
Oh yeah, that's true. Let me hang on a second, guys. Hang on. Um, so Ufoma had this recording going, that I said I'll play for everybody to listen to as a preamble to this talk. It'll be helpful for you to hear mine as well as background for where she's coming from. I'll play it from my cell phone and just put it on my speaker here so everybody can listen to it. So hang on while I get there in a bit. Yes, there it is. Here goes. I haven't been active on my blog for a couple of years, and a number of reasons. Major one being that my marriage was failing. For anybody, that's a devastating thing. But for someone who stands as a minister to others about Christ and his love and Christian marriage and the cross, it is so shattering. One begins to lose sight of who they are and faith in things they were previously sure of. I had to believe my marriage would work if I simply practiced the things I believed and taught. But I have this problem that befalls writers, at least fiction authors. My imagination just wouldn't let me sit peacefully on one perspective. There were so many what-if scenarios I was burdened to consider, and these fueled my writing. But it wasn't simply my imagination. It was reality, life, true stories of Dirty Johns and Brute Navars. I watched films and read inspirational literature, which caused me to see that being positive and optimistic and not being observant and proactive would leave me a victim and a statistic. It did not pay to be ignorant, not when I'm responsible for the lives of others. For the sake of my children, if for nothing else, I had to take precaution. So I went down that dark tunnel and considered, what if this was the case? And I wrote a story like I haven't before, the Naive Wife Trilogy. Through the story, I asked God, if this is the case for your daughters, where is your deliverance? I recently published the last book in the trilogy, Rachel's Hope, and it was encouraging. In everything Rachel went through, she was never forsaken. Though she fell and she was humbled, the light of God continued to shine through her. God opened new doors to her and brought people into her life to assist her as she walked through the dark path and as she began the journey of healing. Though she did not understand what was happening or why God would let it happen, he stayed with her through her ordeal, even when she sinned. That is how God has been with me through everything I've been going through. I had never lost the assurance of his love and presence. It got really dark at times, but he gave me helpers through my ordeal, and he kept me ministering through my pain. Though I am presently separated from my husband, I know I'm not forsaken. And though I'd rather shrink from the call of ministry he has given me, I know I must put on the boldness of Christ and speak.
Ufoma, thanks a lot. So this serves as a background to Ufoma as a way to even introduce her. She's an author, wrote this amazing book, The Naive Wife, which, however way you look at it, is a book of hope and encouragement. Especially for women going through challenging times in marriage naively, albeit naively, some self-inflicted, as you may say, but it's not just women that go through this kind of naive approach to marriage as well. Some men go through it. I was just sharing with her yesterday on WhatsApp about a guy that I was getting ready to call, who was going to commit suicide because of a belligerent wife. He was going to end his life because of a wife who was giving him troubles. So totally a loss of identity and purpose in all of that. No fault of his, one may say, but it's happening nonetheless. And highlighting these social issues, it's one of the things that Ufoma is going to be doing here. So Ufoma, welcome. At the end of our talk, I'll mention some amazing surprise that she has for us as well in terms of a book, and we'll take it away from there. Ufoma, so yours.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks, guys. Thanks for everyone who has joined to listen to me talk about the Naive Wife Trilogy, the lessons I hope to share, and what God has put on my heart. I just want you guys all to know that this session I'm doing today, I'm doing it afraid. I'm doing it anyway. The same way I wrote the book. I wrote it afraid. I wrote it anyway. It was a message that needed to be written, because I don't think there are many books that touch on things like that. There are a few films, I guess, but not a lot of, at least not in the Christian circle as well, in faith circle. And I think it's something we really need to look at and pray about and open our eyes when it comes to entering our marriages, and noticing the kind of things that go on, kind of pressures in our society that could mean that someone would enter a marriage thinking it's better than being single, because it's now. So my book, I have 3 of them. Like he said, Rachel's Choice, Rachel's Diary, and Rachel's Hope being the last book. I don't know if you can see it in the trilogy. Yeah, so what I want to, Rachel, let me read the back, right? So you guys get an idea of what the story is about. So in Rachel's Choice, it reads, on the day of her sister's marriage introduction, radio show host Rachel Eden meets AGK and Doug, 2 friends that could not be more different. She finds herself instantly attracted to AGK, but there's something about Doug and the way he's determined to win her heart. Neither men are who they appear to be, however, making Rachel's choice harder. Her producer and friend, Don Jack, also makes his intentions known, but could he be a little too late? Rachel's Choice is a story of many singles seeking to know the will of God for their relationships and who need, beyond wisdom, grace to make the right choice for their lives. It's the first volume of a 3-book fictional series about love and marriage, The Naive Wife. Okay, so as I said in my introduction, I was inspired to write this story, and it isn't like It isn't based on my own story. You can say my life, my marriage inspired me to write such a story. Um, and but it's not my story. And I really want to make that distinction because I think it would be unfair to equate the things that the husband in this book did with mine. My story is saved for another day. Yes, it is. It's saved for another day. But yeah, there are lessons to learn and there were messages I wanted to communicate through this book. The most important being that the choice you made to marry someone is not something you want to take lightly at all. It's something that you should not take with pressure. It should be an informed choice that you're ready to live with as a responsible adult with a full knowledge of who you are. It's not something a decision you make, when you're not sure of who you are or your purpose. I know that there's so much pressure to get married these days, and it's not just external, it's even internal. You might want to have kids, you might be getting a bit old, you've had enough failed relationships. I wrote a post on my blog years ago that is called that there are worse things, basically there are worse things than being lonely. Would you rather, that's the question. The question is, would you rather be miserably lonely in marriage? So that's the question I put out in the blog post that I wrote. Would you rather be miserably lonely in marriage? Some people are, I'm so lonely as a single. I've been searching, sometimes I want to have sex or, there's so many things that make you think you should be married already. And you think being married is better or is one blessing that you're missing out on. I need you to understand that singleness itself as well is a gift. It is a blessing. And God is going to use you in your season. And if he wants you to move on to another season, it's not going to be something you're going to be doing unsure or with fear. All right. I prepared some tips and signs to watch out for to make sure that the person you are dating or person who's trying to date you is sincere. As am I doing okay? Can I go ahead with that?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right. Yeah, so I want to share my screen with you so that as I go through them, you'll see what I'm talking about. So can you see this first one? It's called Listen Attentively.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's the first thing you really need to do when you're meeting someone new and you're dating is to listen. Take note of the things they tell you. Keeping a journal will help you identify gaps and notice if and when they start switching their story. We all like to say, make ourselves look more interesting or make ourselves a little more attractive. First dates, it's not something that's uncommon, but then there's a thin line between doing that and just lying about who you are. And so it's very important that you listen and you take notes so that you can verify facts later. So I'm going to go to the next one. It's maintain boundaries. So someone that's not really sincere will not let you have time to process everything that's going on. They will want to rush you. They'll want to bamboozle you with love. so that you're not really processing things well. It's very important for you to maintain boundaries. Okay, they may try to encroach on your space and make you more familiar before you're ready. Be sure to be guided by your principles, not emotions. This applies to when it's time to kiss, have sex. As Christians, we know that we should not be having sex before marriage. So if we're guided by our principles, we will not make that mistake. But it also means like how much time they spend in your bedroom. That was something that that I can totally I kind of dropped the ball on that early on. You know, allowing how much time you spend together. Sometimes you just carried away with spending time together and you're not thinking, you know, you also need time apart to process things. So that's another tip. Don't jump to conclusions. Yes, you might believe everything they tell you. You might not feel like there's any reason to doubt them. And you might think that because he's always around you, he always hangs around you, he loves being around you, he loves your company. Actually, he may just be broke, you need a food and a place to stay. So don't jump to the conclusion that he loves you because he's constantly calling and being always with you, okay? Just take note of it too. Remember, maintain your boundaries. All right, so you also need to verify his story. It is not enough to listen. At some points, when things seem to be getting serious, be sure to verify his story. Do your own checks and don't rely on what his friends tell you, okay? Someone might ask, oh, does that mean I have to become a private investigator?
I asked that question.
Yes. No. You know something? If we're an employer and want to employ someone to do a job, we check the person out. They come with their CV, we do credit checks. Depending on the type of job you're giving them, there are all sorts of checks you do on them, including their health and all that.
Background checks.
And we don't play around with that as an employer, especially since you can be sued. We need to take that much seriousness with anyone we're trying to build a life with, because not only is it going to affect us, they're going to affect our children. They're going to affect our lives in a really big way. So we're not just trying to go in on their word. We want to be sure that we really know the person that we're agreeing to marry. So verify his story. Check his friends also, right? Does he have friends? Is he a loner? How many friends? Are they close friends? Work friends? Church friends? Get to know them and be sure to check them out also. If you are with somebody who hangs around with philanderists, for example, you should be concerned about their influence on the person you're dating. If you're with someone who hangs around with gamblers or drug addicts, or, you know, you should be concerned about the person you're dating. So it's very important that you know his friends, and you're also comfortable having them as your friends, because they will become your friends. Watch him with his family. I can't really overstress this part. Before things get too serious, you want to see him at home with his family, and not just once. Get familiar with them, because if you marry him, they'll be your family too. You might be thinking, must I do this with everyone I date? You know, it's a bit much. Remember my point, before things get too serious, if you find yourself thinking, oh, it's ticking all the right boxes, I really like this person, before you get to any conclusion, be sure you know his family too. You should want to introduce you to his family. If he doesn't, ask to meet them. Or you can, introduce him to yours first so that he can introduce you to theirs. But get familiar and don't rush things. Don't do like so many visits, like bombard them with your presence as well, just like you won't want them to bombard you. So allow time to do its work. Don't rush things. Trust your instincts. At this point, you should know if things are not adding up. If you feel uncomfortable around him or his behavior is somehow enigmatic, contradictory, conflicting, don't ignore the signs. If in doubt, investigate. Yes. If your heart is on the line, you really like this guy, but there's just something that's nagging at you, investigate. So that you don't have this feeling where you are having regrets that, oh, you could have taken a chance. If you want to know more, find out more. And trust your gut. Trust your gut. Don't push it aside. If you're getting these things in your spirit or about this person, you just trust your gut and dig deeper or walk away. Talk to God. Yes, you should have been doing this from the get-go. But at this point especially, you need to check in with God about your feelings and observations. You're not trying to enter a marriage without him. So you need to be talking with him about what's going on, about your anxieties, about what you're observing, and what you want. Be sure to ask God what you want. Don't feel like you can't ask God, oh, I want this type of person, or I want this type of life. Yes, God has what he wants from you too, but you have an intimate relationship, you're his child, and he cares about what you want. Talk to him about it. Are you making excuses? That is something you should look out for. If you start making excuses for the person that you're dating constantly, sometimes we want something so bad, we explain away things that don't make sense, and we believe ridiculous stories so we can keep our relationship. There's a there's a film I recommended recently called Good on Paper. I really think everyone should watch that. I watched it the second time and I got so many quotes from it. And one of the things that the main character said, because the guy lied to her about his mom having cancer so that he could get close to her, when she's now found out the truth about him, she still believed that his mom had cancer. And she said, maybe he's behaving this way because his mom had cancer and things just got worse. We get so stuck in the narrative that we've been sold. It's so hard to get out of it. So, and it's easy to make a lot of excuses. So don't make excuses. You can listen to what they have to say and analyze the information that you're being told. Don't delay the inevitable. The sooner you end a relationship that is going nowhere, the better for you. If you sense that you can't trust him because he lies too easily, don't enter a relationship that demands trust. You just can't do it. Like Jesus said, you got to build on a rock. And a relationship that doesn't have trust is like building on sand. So if you don't have that trust, it's not by force to continue end things. Don't think that trust will grow later. At this point, if things are working out, and not be afraid to end it and start again. Are you happy? Are you happy? Oh, I think we can get so religious and think that, it's not about our happiness. My God, you need to know if you're happy. You're going to be with this person for the rest of your life. Are you miserable with him right now? Before you spend another month, another week in a relationship with this person, are you happy? It's a very important question. Is your relationship stressing you out? Are you losing self-confidence and respect? Do you feel anxious often? So take a gauge on yourself. Let that guide you into knowing if the relationship you're in is good for you or not. Are your folks happy? Some friends and family may have reservations formed by biases, but they may also have genuine issues about your prospects. Get their perspective too. It's important to find out, if they like the person you're dating, if they have any issues, reservations, and yeah, it's all part of taking things slowly and weighing everything. It's very important that you do it. Remember the analogy with employing somebody. If you have this gut instinct, if people are saying things about this person you want to employ, you may want to reconsider. So that's the end of that slide. I have another slide, which is before you agree to marry. So this is tips and signs to watch out for to know your prospect is sincere. Now, there are also other things you need to do before you agree to marry them. And that is not like you've already said yes to the engagement and you're planning the wedding. Please do these things before you even say yes to an engagement, because once you say yes to an engagement, there are all sorts of new pressures that come along, and it's so much harder for you to walk away, even though you've seen some red flags at that point. It's so much harder. So before you agree to marry someone, these are some steps, some checks that you should make. So, all right. So I think I've stressed on this before, so let me stress on it again. Allow time to bring clarity. It is not a race to get married. Don't look at your friend who's been married for 5 years and has 3 kids. Don't look at your sister who's getting married and she's younger than you. Don't look at anybody else. You're not on their time, okay? Because you can be the first and you'll still be the last. Jesus said it. So allow time to bring clarity. Don't be driven by your feelings. Everything might be fine and you may be deliriously happy. It's more reason to slow down and open your eyes so you don't miss something.
Yeah. Great point, Ufuomaee. I was just gonna say, I just got a note from Angela right here, but I was gonna anyway. I think we need to break and before we jump in, who's that person?
Sorry.
Jeez. Before you go to the next slide, let's just pause and have us reflect on these are heavy slides you've put up here. Some of us know about, some is just striking some people like, oh wow, this is real, Can we just give room for folks to ask questions on this?
Sure. Room for questions.
So anybody who has a question, please put your hands up. Chinaza Collins has got one. Chinaza, mute yourself and ask, please.
Thank you, PU. Thank you, Ufuomaee. And I must say that this teaching resonates very strongly with me because not alone was I the naive wife, I was a naive single. And I say this because with all the things you've shared, these were not the things I did before I got married. These were not the questions I asked. There was a lot of pressure, not necessarily direct, but that unspoken pressure, because you're at a certain age, you're doing certain things in life. So the next thing you're supposed to do is get married. And looking back, one of the things I sort of struggle with is when you say know yourself, because I didn't know who I was. I'm only beginning to get better clarity on who I am as a person, my identity, etc. And so I know that the person that I know that I am now, shouldn't have made that decision I made 10 years back. And then you said something about happy. Are you happy? I was married for about 9-10 years. And very early on, I used to say, I'm not happy. But it seemed like it was unimportant to people, and it didn't seem like the reason not to be in a relationship. Plus, there was also, you've already made this decision, so you have to stick with it. So for the longest time, I felt trapped. I felt very unfulfilled, but it was like, this is the cross I have to bear. And so there was now, and this is where the naive wife part comes in. I had to make it work, even though there was just always this knot in my chest, and I was just very unhappy. So, but it didn't make sense to tell anybody that was, you just weren't happy. What do you mean you're not happy? He's not hitting you. He's not doing this. So it was very mental for me. And coming out of it, I am finding myself. So I'm no longer the naive single. I definitely won't be the naive wife. I think that what's critical is getting this information out there to a lot of people who are yet to be married. And I like what you said, it's not, being lonely is not about being single, because you can be lonely in a marriage. And I felt that very strongly in my marriage. So yes, I don't know what the question is, but I'm so happy that you shared this, because it resonates with my current situation and my past experiences. But thank you so much for sharing.
So glad to relate. Thank you for sharing your perspective and your experience in a little way. Are there more questions?
Any more questions?
Before I move on, more people want to say something?
Antelera's got a question. Antelera, please unmute.
Thank you very much. Very good morning to you, Ufuomaee.
Good morning,
I
Mark.
thoroughly enjoyed listening to you speak. Your insight, your depth, your words of wisdom. Well done. Well done. I actually don't have a question, but there's something that I just think I should say, because the memory comes back so vividly. Around the time, you know how when you're getting married, quite a number of people get married all around the same time. And there was a friend of mine, we're in our early 20s, and she was about to get married, and she came to visit. And as she was leaving, she started talking about how uncomfortable she was as the day of the marriage was coming, the day of the wedding was coming, that she was getting nervous, that she wasn't sure. And unfortunately, she was talking to me, and I dismissed it. I told her, no, don't worry. That's how brides feel. That, that's what they say, that when the time is coming, getting closer, you get jittery, you get nervous, you're going to be fine. Look, honestly, you're going to be fine. That was me being a very naive single who was about to get married and felt that brides get jittery. I think that's a lie. I don't think they should be as jittery as my friend was. And nobody was listening to her. She married the wrong person. They had a son. The marriage didn't go very well. And she's now remarried to someone that is so different from that first man. And she's so much happier. So what I just want to say is, really, God, we weren't born again then, but, we know him because we were going to church, and he was trying to speak. He was trying to send signal. He was trying to send signs, and we didn't pick up on the signs. Now, the beauty of everyone listening to you is that they are born again. They know God. They know his voice. And so your words of wisdom, of advice is so timely and so spot on that I really just want to say, all those, anything you feel that is not, where your peace, you lose your peace, pay attention. Don't, and that's what I really love when you said, are you making excuses? Not because of what you desire. It's so important not to start making excuses so that it fits We are forcing it to fit when it really doesn't fit. So that's what I just want to say. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate your contribution.
Thanks,
Thank you.
That's okay. Making excuses, ignoring signals, and signs, and just plainly taking things for granted. A lot of them coming from ignorance, and not being in the spirit as well. Even if we're in the spirit, we still want to negotiate with God, God, but this one now, because of some subtle unseen pressures that are just out there pressuring everybody, to force everybody into a certain mold. For me, it's a good guys. On your next slide, I want you to dig deeper, please. Don't stay on the surface. Don't be in a hurry to leave. We're here till 12 o'clock, okay? Because I want to unpack everything very well, okay?
There's more. There's another slide after this.
Go for it.
Okay, so the one I talked about before was, allow time to bring clarity. Yeah. So that was the first one in the before you agree to marry him slides. Okay, I hope that has sunk in that we're not in a rush with this decision, because the first can still be the last. All right, we want to marry right, not fast. Good. So next one is ask and dispense doubt. So
can you blow up the slide so we can see it on presentation?
You're not seeing it well?
No, we're seeing your
oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Let me stop this share. It's like I picked the wrong thing to share. Ask and dispense doubt. There we go. Okay. No, wrong one. There we go. Can you see it now?
Yes, we do.
All right. Ask and dispense doubt. Okay, so dating is a time for collecting data. I heard that once from Michelle McHammond when she was teaching at TPH. Dating is a time for collecting data. Don't be shy to ask all the questions that are important to you about his faith, values, financial capacity and habits, aspirations, and more. Okay. You need to know this person you're about to get married to. We're assuming that you already know yourself. You should know these things about yourself so that you know if this person you're about to marry agrees with you. If you don't know yourself and you're asking him questions, you might want to please him and accept his answers or change who you are to agree with him. You need to first know who you are. And so when you're asking him questions, you're figuring out if you fit. You know, if you're going to change to fit. All right. So it's very important to talk about finance as well. Some people think that it's not romantic. Please. When it comes to marriage, it's not going to be romantic fighting about money all the time. It's not. But if you already have an agreement, then you guys should be a team and a partnership. So don't let, it's not romantic, stop you from asking very important questions. Make use of counseling. Premarital counseling should assist you to do a thorough check and analysis of your relationship and compatibility. If you have concerns, it's best to air them here. I will say in Rachel's case, she actually aired some concerns in her marriage counseling session. And unfortunately for her, a marriage counselor did not take her seriously enough. The concern she raised was about trust and dishonesty. And her prospect argued that it was just normal. And the marriage counselor kind of agreed with him that it was just street smarts. It's not like, it's not anything serious. It's very good for you to know what you can stand and what you can't stand. And it's okay to change your counselor if you feel like you're not getting what you're supposed to be getting from it. You don't have to, if you feel like you're not being heard, you're not being understood, you don't have to carry on with the person that is counseling you into marriage the same way you don't have to carry on with your relationship with the person you're with if you're getting red flags. So have you fought yet? Very good for you to watch out for this. You need to observe him in a disagreement. You can't always agree. How does he handle these? Watch for anger, bitterness, jealousy, and immaturity. So if you're not fighting, you also need to wonder why. Because sometimes, like, there's some chameleons. These are people who are pretenders. They will agree with you. They will praise you. They'll not talk about what they really believe or what they really want. They're in your corner and they don't disagree with you. When they have what they want from you, that's when they're now going to show themselves. And there's nothing you can do about it at that point.
So I was going to ask you, how do you guard against that? How do you prevent that?
So how do you guard?
How do you guard against premeditated desires? And somebody comes in knowing that this is what I'm going to go after, and it's a chameleon the whole time. Pretends, doesn't show himself, is lovey-dovey, telling you the right words you want to hear, and all of a sudden, boom, you get married and you see a totally unmasked person. How do you deal with that in the pre-marriage?
The truth is, no one is that perfect at this deception. There are going to be some telltale signs that if you are observant and if you are not in a hurry, you're going to see them and you're going to take stock of them. Okay, so the problems happen when we're in a hurry, when we let time and other people pressure us. Okay, so like even in the book, yeah, the man she ended up marrying showed himself in the first book. He showed himself, like she saw the way that he was in an argument. She saw the way he was responsible about things, but she made excuses. She accepted his excuses. Do you understand? And there were quite a number of red flags that she overlooked because nobody is perfect. Yeah. Please, nobody's perfect. Yes, we get it. Yeah, nobody's perfect. You too, you're not perfect. Okay, but that's why it's very important to know who you are and what you want, so that you will not settle for less than that. I don't know if I've answered you. Did I even try?
No, keep going. You did well. Thanks a lot for that.
Okay. Yeah, so that fighting thing.
Dean, I'm sorry to jump in. Dean, yes, sorry, Ufuomaee, yes. I just wanted to say an addition, something that Opayemi wrote in the chat. I think this is where gift of discernment must be desired. Everyone, yes. we carry the Spirit of God inside of us. We do have discerning spirit, right? But how you develop it so that you become more and more discerning. You know, it's like any gift that you have, you work on it. It's important that it works and operates, because what Dean has asked and what PU has asked is such an important question, because and sometimes there are signs, right? But you choose to ignore them. Sometimes you can want something so much that the signs are there, and then when you think back later, you say, "Oh my God, it was here, yeah." But I like what you said before, Ma. Have you fought yet? You need to observe your
Yes.
disagreement. So you need to pay attention to disagreements. That's what she's
Yes.
saying. You know, is it too quick to resolve it? And doesn't allow you to go deeper. Because some people are wild, they're too quick to resolve issues, but doesn't mean the issue has been resolved. They're just quicker.
No, they just push the
And
side.
then it festers underneath, like a wound that festers. But they keep putting
Yes.
plaster over it to keep it till one day.
Yes.
Yeah, so we need to pay attention. Yeah.
Mom, you're shouting. Oh. That's just the truth. That's just the truth. All right, so the next one is, do you want the same things? Okay, so this is also hinging on the fact that you already know who you are and what you want, you know, and what you're willing to do to get what you want, where you're going in life, you know. So in a relationship, we're all supposed to make some compromises and sacrifices because we cannot be too rigid. Yeah. But are you constantly compromising and sacrificing to make your relationship work? You know, is he proposing things that go against your values? You know, and is making you, you know, say, is justifying those things to you? Are you losing yourself to please him? Does he equally make sacrifices and compromises? You know, sometimes some people, you know, you're the one that is doing all the bending and all the work so that you can continue on your journey. The person you're with is not ready to meet you halfway. You don't want to do life with someone like that, you know? And these things, like I said, is before you agree to marry him, or because after you agree, it's harder. Not that you can't walk away, it's just harder. So things like his faith, his vision for life, his work ethic, even stuff like roles in the house, you know. So the Bible asks, can two walk together unless they agree? So it's very important that you have agreements and that you're both ready to work together in agreement. And it's not just one person that is forsaken. Is he reliable and responsible? Does he keep his promises? Thing with liars is that they lie without even thinking, and they make promises without even thinking because they know they don't intend to fulfill it. So they'll just say, "Oh, we'll do this thing this time. Oh, by this time this will happen. We'll do it." They have no intention of fulfilling it, but they're so used to just creating pictures and impressions by lying. Is he constantly changing plans, breaking dates, or making excuses? Do you feel like an afterthought in his decision-making process? Does he care for you? Like, is it like he's made his plans and then he now remembers that, oh, you guys were supposed to do something or something? Do you trust him to lead you and raise your children? You know, so somebody who you can't count on, somebody who, if they say something is black, you have to check to see if it's black because you cannot trust their word. Are you able to trust that person to lead you as a wife in marriage and to raise your children to be children of integrity? So, or is it somebody that you feel like you don't really know the person at all, and you might find something about him in the future that will not only break your heart, but make you and your family poor or some other way disadvantaged because of decisions he's made or he's making? So you need to know that about him. Does he love you? Does he love you? Do you believe he does? Does he care for you? Does he like
P, I'm it.
Is it for my hanging?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'll give her a call now. It's gone. It's gone. Let me see what number to reach her. I hope she comes back soon. I mean, the discussions she's having are very poignant, very key. You know, they're real. And so I'm going to try and get her to the back end of it as well. Now, what if, you know, we have been naive? We're now married, and here we are. We've now realized we're in the spirit, we have our identity, we know ourselves, and we found that this is it. What do we do? I hope she'll be able to answer that though. There's some choices that one has to make, and a lot of it, all or most, if not all, are personal choices that are not mutually exclusive, you know, to everybody. You know, each decision has got to be taken on its own merit and specific case. You know, but certainly once we come to that realization, now this is for those who are not married, realize, hey, I'm not happy. He's been fooling around all this while. He's been lying to me, or she, you know, she's been lying to me. She's been doing all of this stuff that I mean, a totally different person that I met 10 years ago. What happened, you know, and what do I do? Those are clear and present realities that we face. There's a movie that I will encourage you guys to watch on Netflix. It's called Good on Paper. It's on Netflix. I highly recommend that movie, Good on Paper. When somebody is good on paper, checks all the box, you know, meets everything, you're happy, you know, you flow together, your friends are heading you ahead, but deep down, there's that knot inside of you that something is just not right. You know, how do you resolve it? This is before you jump into it now. It's good on paper, she's good on paper, you know, all the stuff. For those of us that are looking for those who have MBA degrees from Harvard and Kellogg Business School, they all have it. They're checking all the box, you know. What are we going to do? How do we react to all those things? I hope she joins back soon. I was going to press her on her book as well. Her book is amazing. The name of the book is The Naive Wife. It's a trilogy, a 3-part book. The last book is called Rachel's Hope. It's an amazing book on restoration, on new beginnings, you know, and the power of God to intervene in a matter. I started reading the book at the airport, really, and then got in the plane. And like I said in the beginning, best book, terrible book. Best book for me in that, I mean, this year has been the best book I've read. Terrible book in that it didn't let me sleep because I just couldn't put it down. You finish it, you're looking for the next one, you know, and you see yourself immersing your whole body into the story because those are realities you know people face. At least there's 1 or 2 people you know, if not you know, are going through such issues around decision making. You know, and unfortunately, we're not training our kids in decision making, how to make good decisions in life. And we're all coming up short with the kind of, you know, shoddy decisions that we make. Ufuomaee, you're back. I'll just give it.
Oh my God. I had to switch my network.
No, that's fine. That's the reality of living in Lagos. So continue from where you stopped. We'll pick back up.
Where did I stop? Where did you hear me last?
You were.
Is he reliable and responsible?
Is it reliable?
Yeah, does he care about you? Yes.
Okay, so I've not moved to, or does he love you?
That's where you were.
You have.
You
I
said,
still
does
love
he
you.
love
You have.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still love
Does
you.
he care about you?
I still love you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you. Oh my God. All right. Do you believe he loves you? Does he care for you? Does he spend on you? So Jesus said that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. He meant that regarding to his church. He meant that regarding to our relationships and where we invest our time and money. So if he's not investing in you in that way, maybe he doesn't. Or does he leave you to settle the bill, take liberties, and presume on your resources? Does he want you? You know, maybe it's not you he wants. Maybe it's what you have or what you have access to. Or maybe he needs you, but he doesn't actually want you, you know? So someone who loves you, it's you they want. If he needs you, after he gets you, he's going to leave you in the house and go after what he wants. Do you understand the difference? If he needs you, he'll marry you and he'll keep you in his house, and then he'll go after what he wants. And because he has so much disregard for you, he's not going to care what he has to do to get what he wants, as long as he has what he needs already. So you need to know the difference between somebody needing you and somebody wanting you and loving you. And you need, and I think you will know if he actually loves you by the things he does, how he does it, how he communicates with you, what he sacrifices for you, how he listens to you and takes what you say into consideration. So if you can't answer this question, you don't want to agree to marry him. You don't want to do that. But if you answer yes, if everything checks out, you're happy with all you've learned about him, and you can imagine your future together, seal it with the peace of God. If you can't ask God about it, maybe there's something wrong. You know, I'll use an example from the Naive Wife, Rachel's Hope. One of my characters, he wanted someone so bad. And he believed in God, but he could not ask God about this person he wanted. He thought God wouldn't give that person to him. So he went after a person with his own strength in his own way. And he just scattered. Like he had to come to the point of taking it to God, like, God, this is what I want, you know? And I think we sometimes, like, we don't know how to hear it from God, and so that's why we don't ask. It's really about cultivating a relationship of intimacy. If we are his children, we would have heard from him at least once, at least in the decision that we made to come to him. He called us. No one comes to him unless they're called, you know. There are different ways that God speaks with us. There are different ways that we communicate with him. Go with your trusted way. Go with the way that you know, okay? And check your spirit, check your heart. Even at that altar, yes. Even when you're at the altar in front of everybody else, you know, because sometimes you're like, oh, it's too late to change our mind. We're going to disappoint everybody. They're not going to be in that house with you in that marriage. They're not going to carry the babies or deal with all the responsibilities and disappointments that come with being married. At the end of that's where we're going to go to the next bit. The next slide that I have, which is lessons from Rachel's Hope. Rachel's Choice. 12 lessons from Rachel's Choice.
Okay.
So that's going to be, that's the next slide. So hold on a second, let me get it. So let's
Before you do, let me
okay, let's
bring
you
up
go question. Yes.
the lots of people sending me private messages here. Let me get to one of them.
Okay.
How important is financial equality in relationships? If there's a huge gap in what the couples earn, hang on, yeah, if there's a huge gap in what the couples earn or family background, is that a red flag?
I'm not the authority. As much as I have my lessons, I cannot say I'm the authority on these issues. But I will share what.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What are your thoughts?
Yes, I'm going to share my thoughts on the matter. My thoughts on the matter. The main thing you need to ask yourself and the person you want to marry in this regard is, what are you bringing to the table? Finance, money isn't everything. Money is used to calculate value. And there's some things that you bring to the table that money cannot value. Do you understand? Small-minded people, they count dollars. They don't count real value. So someone's financial status should not be the reason you decide not to have a relationship with them. Because they might have potential.
Yep, exactly.
Yes, they might have potential. There's also, the grace of God, opportunities that come up, like when a man finds a wife, finds a good thing, and they are blessed. Do you understand? He might not come with a lot, but if you believe in him, if you if you're ready to support him and you're ready to work as a team, you trust him not to be married because of what you have, there's no reason why it shouldn't work if he's a genuine person, if he's someone who brings other things to the table. My internet is, I don't know if you can still hear me.
Yes, we can. It was drawing a bit. But it's back up now.
Yeah, there's no reason if he brings other things to the table. Okay. Yeah. If he brings other things to the table, same with women. People try now to value motherhood in dollars. So, okay, so if you pay for a house cleaner, if you pay for a nanny, if you pay for a washer, no. I know it helps us to appreciate what women bring to the table as mothers, but there's so much more to the value that we bring, and it cannot be quantified.
Can you try turning off your video? Let's see if data will work better.
Small-minded men who think that because they bring 10 million naira or whatever, and you do not work, you're just looking after 5 kids and doing all these.
Can you?
My video.
Can you turn off your video? Let's see if it will work better.
All right. I think I might have. Okay, I can see where I can do it. Stop video.
Yeah, good.
Okay, I've stopped my video. Can you hear me better?
Better now, yeah. There was a lot of pressure on your data from the video.
Can you hear me? I've stopped my video. Okay. So the point is, value is what you're looking for, not money. What value are you bringing to the table? And then on top of that, trust. If you don't trust the person that you're having a relationship with, if you suspect that they do not value you, or they are looking at what you are bringing to the table, is what you have that they want, not you that they want, then no, you do not want to marry that person. You don't. And I'm not saying that someone who is of a different class to you you will not have conflicts. You will definitely have conflicts. before you get married, you need to talk about these differences. You need to acknowledge these differences. Don't let it be the elephants in the room. Okay. It's not proud to acknowledge it. Because it's very, very important to your compatibility. Okay, if you see a woman and you want to marry her, but she doesn't really have a job, or but she's well trained and all that, and you are financially stable, and you want to know what she's bringing to the table, you will know the value because you know what you're looking for from her. Maybe it's not money you need from her. It works the other way too. So I don't know if I've answered the question. Have I?
Kind of, sort of.
Have I answered? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, you did. You made an attempt. Which
okay,
is
no one's answering me.
I'm answering
okay,
you.
so okay.
P is answering you.
Yeah.
P is answering you.
Value
I don't think you can hear.
Is what you're looking for. What value is it?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I have a question before you go on. Can you hear me?
I heard him. So are there more questions, or can I move on?
Yes. There's a question from Antelera. Antelera, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes. The question I have is around what you said about is he spending on you? That question. Is he spending on you? Is he leaving you to pick up the tab? And I just wanted to say that is he spending on you? You can have a man who has other plans, and he's spending because he's a spender.
Yes.
He knows, and he spends on everyone he meets, and then qualify that, please, because because he can spend, and you can misunderstand, misrepresent that, because spending is not an issue. He has more than enough.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So
yes, they're spenders. That's there can be spenders. Yes.
So so paying attention to the other things you said is then key. So you have to be able to discern.
It's just one of the ways, we should, I put that there because, sometimes my network.
You want to change service?
Yeah. It's like we as women, we love attention, and you can have a guy who spends a lot of time giving you that attention for like, sorry?
Oh, she's gone. Oh boy. As a question, someone had me on the chats here. It was a private direct message to me. Talks about everything the person has said resonates, but are we all supposed to leave our marriages because we realize it may not have been the best person and we now understand better who we are? My point is, what is the way forward? We now have a better relationship with God and a better sense of self. Can we fix or mend this situation we find ourselves without breaking the marriage, considering there are kids now and things are more complicated? That's a clear and present issue we all face, well, not we all face, that some of us face. We've come to know God. We understand what's right is from wrong. We know where we've made some erring choices, and but here we are. We've got kids. We're in a marriage 15 years in. What do we do? I don't know. I can throw that up for anybody here in the call to respond to that. It's certainly a question I want to ask her from the back end when she comes in, when she's done with her slides.
I'm here.
Ufuomaee, how you did you hear the question?
I did not hear anything. I was on, then I was off. I'm on
Okay.
now. I'll stay.
Let me read the question. Let me read the question to you. Everything that
Okay.
has been said resonates with me. But are we all supposed to leave our marriages because we realize it may not have been the best person and we now understand better who we are? My point is, what is the way forward? We now have a better relationship with God and a better sense of self. Can we fix or mend this situation we find ourselves without breaking the marriage, considering that there are kids now and things are more complicated? How will you respond to that?
Thank you for the question. It's a very, very valid, very good question. That question was addressed in the book, The Naive Wife Trilogy, in Rachel's diary. Rachel was fighting in her marriage to stay in that marriage. And my advice is that we should always fight for our marriages. Leaving a marriage is not a small decision, the same way entering one wasn't a small decision or isn't a small decision. Before you consider leaving your marriage, you have to do all you can to save it. One thing that I wanted to also showcase in the Naive Wife Trilogy was the issue of abuse in marriage. Okay, I think that was a theme that I was trying to address, because marriage is hard. Even if it's good, it's hard. If it's not that good, it's hard, but when there's abuse, it's corrupt. That's the difference right there. Okay, so, and me not as a self-proclaimed marriage counselor, I guess, because I don't have a qualification for it, only what the Lord has been teaching me. I have always taught through the books that I've been writing, messages I keep communicating, women to fight for their marriages, forgiveness, restoration, the cross, right?
Yeah.
We are in our marriages, whatever we're going through, whether it's good or bad, is our cross, right? And it's our Christianity, and our salvation is tied. Do you understand? It's in there. It's not a small thing at all for a believer to walk out of any marriage. It's a very, 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 very big thing. And that's why since yesterday, I've been feeling sick to my stomach, because this thing that I'm teaching, this thing that I'm sharing is not a simple matter at all. So Rachel, through her show, she had marriage ABCs on the radio. I wrote a book, Marriage ABCs. And the marriage ABCs is supposed to teach you how to work on your marriage, what to expect from your marriage, what to give in your marriage, and how to deal with the challenges that arise. Okay. But that abuse thing, abuse and marriage do not go together at all. Okay, so by the time I edited the marriage ABCs and I was praying about it, I wrote a new section at the end called Emotional Abuse, the Silent Killer, addressing this issue of abuse in marriage. So I've always said what Paul said: love endures all things, it hopes all things, it believes all things. So why will I not endure this marriage? Am I teaching women to endure marriages where they are being abused, whether it's physically or sexually or financially or psychologically abused? Am I teaching women to die inside their marriages? Is that what Christ is saying for us? I had to look at it and say, I don't believe that Paul gave us that teaching or counsel so that we will be enduring abuse inside marriage.
Yeah.
He told us that to show us what love does, the way of love, right? And so when times are hard, when people mess up, when people fail, we do not give up. We do not say, not for me, I'm not going to stand that rubbish. We fight it out. We work it out. We do all we can to fix it. But when it is clear that this is an abusive situation, when your sanity, when you are considering suicide, before you go and kill yourself, please walk away from that marriage. Okay? Before you go and do anything like that. Because that's not God's
At what point do you strike a balance between sucking things up or you suck things in versus seeking help?
Sucking things in.
Yeah, we're told, don't go.
I tell people.
Don't go spread your dirty linen out there. Suck things in.
Yes, sir.
Happening in your marriage.
Yes,
Keep it yourself. At what point do you seek help? Where do you strike that balance? Is there a barometer that begins to go up, and when it gets to a certain range, you say, I need to get help here. Otherwise, it's also a strategy of the enemy to keep everything in and locked. Meanwhile, you are getting pent up with emotional anger.
And that is what the abuser relies on. And that is what the abuser relies on. That you will not talk to anyone, that you keep it to yourself, that you endure it. So at what point do you go out? Okay. Because the truth of the matter, when you're in it, you don't know what you're in. I don't know if you hear me. When you're in it, inside it, you cannot see what other people are seeing that are going on outside. You can only deal with it from where you are inside. And inside you have hope in your heart that this thing will work. You have love in your heart that you want to give. You want to do God's work in your marriage. You do you understand? So where you are inside, that is what we're working with. You don't know what's happening from the outer external point of view, and you are not at liberty to go and ask, and what do you think of my marriage? And what do you think of what my husband did or what my wife did? You are not at that liberty. You can only work from the inside out. So when you are going through that, you first do all you can, because you're not going to just jump to conclusion that this one is abuse. Sometimes it's just hard and it's not abusive. We don't want to jump to that conclusion. And I think that's the journey that Rachel took in her book. She did not jump to any conclusion that this thing she had been deceived or anything. She was really trying to, maybe this, maybe that. She was inside it. She did not see what anyone else was seeing. Okay, so while you're inside it, be optimistic, be hopeful, pour out your love and do everything you can do inside it. The person if the person is abusing you or taking advantage of you, they're not going to respond positively to the things that you're doing to make it work. They might entertain you, they might amuse you, they might laugh at you. Do you understand? They might just continue to do whatever they're doing while you yourself, you are fighting, you are praying to God, and you are, but to begin, I think when you start seeing that you're not getting the response you're supposed to get from the things you're doing to save your marriage, that is when you need to now ask somebody else. Before you go wider.
In Rachel's case, she actually went out to seek help. She went to her parents and asked both of them and told them, this is what I'm observing, but they shooed her away, told her, go back to and all that stuff. Before I get you to respond to that, Chinoza has her hands up for a while now. Chinoza, do you want to come back and ask the question? You want to unmute your phone?
Yes, thank you, PU. So I had a comment and a question. So my comment or my answer to the question about the person who asked, okay, so do we all then just leave our marriages because we found who we are and we're with the person we're not supposed to be with. I'll just use my own personal experience, and it was a difficult decision. And as you mentioned, Ufuomaee, it's a very difficult decision to make, especially when there are children involved. But one thing for me that was sort of like an epiphany was I listened to some teaching, and the question that came up was, if you know your purpose and there's your marriage, and then because the reason that we stay and the reason a lot of people stay is, first of all, the optics and the fear of going to hell because you're not supposed to get a divorce. And that's part of what held me back. Like, this means that, you know, if I get a divorce, if I leave this marriage, then I'm probably going to go to hell. And so what I did,
Shinaza, before you move forward on that, God hates divorce, not the divorcee. Let's all be clear about that, okay? Because we've used that as a sort of demo codes to hang up on people. You cannot do this because God says he is. Yes, he does say divorce, not the person, not the divorcee or whoever leaves the marriage. Okay, it's the process, the institution of leaving that institution that he hates, not the person. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Pia. I've come to that clarity myself. And so what I did was, the question was, okay, so is this working? And does this take me towards my purpose? Does this actually create an enabling environment for where I'm supposed to be? And it was a decision to choose my purpose over the marriage. And what that teaching, from the teaching I heard, was nobody is saying you can choose to stay in the marriage. It's not a bad thing if that's what gives you peace. Or you can choose to pursue your purpose if you know that the situation you're in does not enable it. And so that helped me, because the deep feeling I had about what I was supposed to be doing and how the marriage was going to contribute or enable that was a deciding factor. Like, okay, this isn't taking me there and this isn't going to help. Then the question I had was, how do you delineate abuse from being hard? Because a lot of the because we did have counselors, people speaking to us, and you know, some people like, no, this what you're going through is not that serious, you just need to talk it over. But I knew deep within that it wasn't about it not being serious. It was just never going to be, there was never going to be that congruence. So it was either I follow what people were saying about you just work at it, but I knew the end, like, except there was some sort of total transformation, like this person is an entirely different human being, and then we could probably get that congruence. So how do I decide that this is abuse or this is just hard? Like, where do you get to that point? Because some people have a better threshold than others. Some people can take more, some people can only take so much, and it's an individual thing.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it brings up another issue, really, which I'll ask Ufuomaee here in a bit. Have a friend who's going through the last stages of divorce right now in the States. Okay, doing quite well at work, earning well, but the husband is just a disaster. You know, now because of the state laws, when you divorce, the person who earns the higher income gives half of his or her own income to the other party. Now she earns well, he doesn't even work, you know, and now she's going to have to part with half her earnings, you know, as part of the divorce agreements and all. Very, very hard. They've signed the divorce and all. Now is the time to write a check for half her earnings. You know, she gives me a call. I had to bring my wife in. Hey, let's just stand and just pray with this young lady, because a part of her life is going to leave her, and that is the reality. A part of her life, her savings, everything she's ever worked for an end, is going to go over to somebody who doesn't deserve it, who beats her black and blue, who doesn't care, like you say, doesn't contribute to upkeep of the home, kids' school fees, none of all that. She's going to have to part with half of that. You know, it's a very traumatic period that has to be handled gently. Okay. So that former question around how do we navigate, given that we're already in, we've realized, you know, a survey was taken way back, and one of the biggest issues for women leaving a home that is just a a train wreck is financial capacity. How will they take care of the kids? You know, how will they take care of themselves? How will they pay the rent? I mean, if you're abroad, there are laws that can take care of that. Here, you're basically on your own, you know. And so those choices, we cannot throw them away and say, okay, this is what we're going to do because you're being abused and all that. You leave, okay, you don't have support. People are thinking real issues. How am I going to cope? I've never worked one day of my life, not because I don't want to, but because he told me not to, you know. And I'm here with kids now. He's left me to go marry another wife. And what am I going to do? Ufuomaee, those are hard choices.
Yeah, those are really, really hard choices. And I think that's why I had to write this book. I had to write it, even though it's kind of puts me on the spotlight and my marriage on the spotlight and my ministry as a Christian fiction marriage counselor / whatever on spotlight, like, but it's something I needed to address. And I'm not coming here and saying this is what you're supposed to do, this is the answer, or this is the way out. The book is a fictional book, and its purpose was really to open our minds, help us to think about things on a wider scale, like, and help us to know what we want before we enter into this thing called marriage, to open our eyes and know what we're getting into, you know. So your question is tantamount to like rules of engagement at war. I like, seriously, what do you do when this happens? I really do not have that, but that's why we have the Holy Spirit, and He's our helper in everything that we're going through. You know, even when we fall down, when we mess up, He's right there with us through it, in the dungeon with us. You know, even if it's the dungeon of our own making. And His aim is for us to rise and to shine. To rise and to shine. You know, recently He gave me the word blossom. Blossom. And that's because yes, I wrote these books. I've done a lot of talking about it on radio and stuff, but I've been very nervous, and I don't want some of this publicity and all that. I want the book out there, you know, but people want to hear from me. They want me to talk about it. And I want to shy away from it. I want the book to talk for me. You know, I hide behind my pen. Let the book talk for me. I don't want to talk about it. So I hide behind my pen a lot. But God just told me that I need to blossom, right? I need to stop hiding and shrinking. He wants me to be a light. And I think that is it. Whatever it is that we're going through, even in that marriage that we feel that we're dying, He doesn't want us to die in that marriage. He wants us to take stock. He wants us to hold on to Him, to ask Him the hard question. You know, like, even, you know, Jesus was to carry His cross. He asked God, if You can take this thing from me, take it. Yeah. You know, I don't want it, but it's Your will. If it's Your will and the only way, I'll surrender to it. So even in our own marriage and our situations that we're going through, we can ask God, this burden, it is feeling like I cannot carry it again. Is this the burden I'm supposed to be carrying?
Great point. Ufuomaee,
is there a lesson from it?
I'm going to bring in Shola Oguchi-Aguda, our in-house marriage counselor here.
Okay.
Shola, I don't know if you want to ask a question or you want to respond to a thought.
Okay, I wanted to respond.
Okay,
good morning to you. Good morning,
Ufuomaee.
Nice to talk to you again. Been a while. And
Yeah.
thank you. It takes a lot of courage to write that kind of book, because it's the reality that we face right now. And like a few people have said, that fear of, if I get a divorce, right? God, then it means that no, my life is totally gone, or God may never forgive me. And like P has cleared, he loves the divorcee, but he doesn't like the process of divorce. And I say to people, he also doesn't like lying, doesn't like stealing, he doesn't like murder. If God forgives a murderer or even loves a murderer, right? Then basically, can you put divorce in that same plane? So that's one thing that needs to be clear. I think what I wanted to respond to P was how do you know, when this is abuse? Especially because abuse just became if it's not domestic violence, it's very hard for a lot of people to say it's abuse, right? We understand domestic violence. So everyone says, oh, if it's domestic violence, then then it's clear that it's abuse. There's sometimes that it's emotional abuse, and sometimes that it's such gross emotional abuse that the insanity to the mind is actually almost worse than the physical beating itself. And most of the times the abuser doesn't even know that he or she is an abuser, right? One of the signs of an abuser most of the time is it's never the abuser's fault. It's always the other person's fault, no matter what happens, right? The abuser never takes responsibility of whatever it is. It is your fault all the time. Oh, it's your fault that I even hit you, right? It's your fault I'm not at home. It's your fault I'm having an affair. You are having affairs repeatedly. It's your fault. If you were a good wife, and sadly, so sad, most of the time women are the brunt of these things. It's one of those things that most of the time the person that has to bear the brunt of this thing is the women. So you didn't, in fact, there's a case that I have, and the mother-in-law told the wife that you are not being prayerful, you're not praying enough, and another the same case, he
The
said,
son is cheating and I'm not praying enough. Really?
Yes, and then she was complaining about alcoholism, and she said that the other one said to her that, but it's your job to help him overcome the alcoholism, right? So can you just imagine the battery to the mind, And the last episode was such an embarrassing episode that in fact there's almost no recovery, and it's still at the back of her mind. She's still saying that, supposing I'm the problem, supposing I'm the one doing something wrong. So just a few things. You'll find out that if you are with someone who, even when you're going to counselors, first of all, some of them never even get to the counselors. They don't even want to go to counselors. Then when they get to the counselors, there's always a part of you don't understand what's happening. This person is the one that is at fault, right? She's always at fault. This person is the one doing it. Then number 3, you don't see any remorse or any consistent willingness to change. So the person does something wrong. If you do something wrong the first time and it was, I'm so sorry. If someone has a personality flaw, when the person messes up, right, there's some remorse of I'm sorry, or even if the person doesn't, because a character flaw doesn't change immediately, right? But there will be some level of, oh, I'm sorry about this, or you can see some effort, right? Or you can see some struggle, But in the case of abuse, you find out that there's hardly effort to change. There's hardly any struggle, as you can see that this person is trying to change. You can hardly see that, right? What you see is a constant blame on the other person. In most cases, a derogation of the other person's personality and character. So you hear offensive words like, it is your fault, right? Or even things like, if there was one that was really bad, all the other women had children through natural birth, but you had to do a CS. That so many offensive, or something about it's even almost sometimes it can be like, or in a case of the person, even when it comes to maybe money or something, it can be like the person always using money as a bait, or even something as simple as you simply cannot work and you cannot get a nanny, right? Because you have to be totally responsible for the children. And you don't see a shift in mindset. You don't see a shift in mindset. You don't see an attempt to change. So sadly, the truth is that some marriages will never work, because the quality of a relationship is always dependent on the quality of the individuals. And if one individual has said, this is my stance, and I'm not going to change this stance because you are the problem, then already it's a disaster. That's the truth. Yes, it's already it's dead on arrival or dead in transit and motion. So one thing that now we're beginning to identify more of, what does emotional abuse really look like? And those are the things that we now begin to, we need to begin to paint more. If your character, your who you are as a person is trampled on daily. I'll give you an example. Someone speaking to me yesterday about a lady who, she can't work, she can't have a nanny, to the extent of she can't put on appliances in the house because she's the one that spoils all the appliances, according to him. And so at this point in time, and then he's told her that she's also the cause of the problem, because that's why, and he's, to make matters worse, he's very wealthy, and she's just in a bad place. And I looked at the case, and I was trying to, of course, the proposition at that time is that this girl is losing her mind, right? And if she continues to stay in this place, she's just going to wake up one day and either carry a knife, do something drastic to herself or to the person, or just go out on the streets. And I was speaking to a medical doctor, and I said, is it possible to build strength? Because sometimes what you want to do with people like that is build inner strength and capacity, right? Even if they stay or go, you want to restore their self-image and you want to restore their identity in God. And this medical doctor said to me that it is very difficult to build in capacity and strength and heal in the process of consistent battery. So you want to heal, but every time you heal, you go back to that same toxic situation, right? And there's consistent battery. So it's like as if 1 minus 1, it's always a plus 1 minus 1. So these are actually very tough situations, really. But in conclusion, just to identify, we need to begin to identify, what does emotional abuse look like? The person that we're working with, this is not something you get up after 1 year, 2 years or something, but the person you're working with, you see a change. Do you see even a submission to God to say, I'm struggling with this thing and I want to work at it, right? Have you spoken to counselors? And do you see that this person is also carrying out his or her own tasks? Because every counselor will give you homework, right? Will give you assignment, will give you, let's work on this. Do you see the person working on none of those things? Have you given it the process of time? And sometimes that's what the thing, we need to identify, how much time do we feel like the Lord is giving us in this case, right? And sometimes we may need to read that thing and say, okay, this case, Lord, between you and I, what are you saying to us? If your life is a danger, that's a no. It's not even, God is already helping you pack your bags. It's in the case of emotional abuse, you and God are sitting down, and like you said, what's the threshold? Lord, can I take this? And you have to be able to know when the Lord just says, give it a go ahead. But the sad thing is that sometimes you don't even know what God is saying to you because you are too battered. That's where the problem usually comes. The person is so gone and so has entered into a place of confusion, really, and can't tell, and doesn't even, it's just person is like, I need to stay. And that's why God needs us. We need counselors and people, mentors, holding you on that journey, as you may have to take one of the most difficult decisions of your life. Sometimes it may be stay away for a while and let's even see, if there's a change or if there's something that happens in that process. Another thing that we advise is women must, one way or the other, we must make income. No, I don't know how we're going to, you must have money, you must make income. And sometimes what people are advised is, as you begin to make a transition to say, I'm leaving, what people begin to advise, in fact, financial experts begin to advise that you begin to make financial plans. So if you say I'm leaving, you may not be able to get up tomorrow and say I'm leaving. You might say, depending on the toxicity of the situation, right? You might begin to say, I'm going to give it so and so time. But in that process, you are building financial wealth. You are building connections. You are building partnerships so that it becomes not just an emotional decision, but a logical decision and also a spiritual decision. Thank you.
Powerful.
Very good. Appreciate that. Hey.
Powerful. Thank you, Shola.
Okay. Ufuomaee,
You're welcome.
do you want to begin to wrap up, and then I'll announce the amazing bonanza we have coming up?
Okay, let me walk you guys through my 12 lessons from Naive Wife Rachel's Choice.
Okay.
It's not from the whole book, it's from the Choice book. There are more lessons in the book, but I don't want to do too many spoilers. But yeah, I think this will help a lot of singles. Let me share my screen. Hold on. So I really appreciate the feedback and the contributions from others. Thank you so much. Okay, so number one, I actually ran this on my blog. So not my blog, on my Instagram. So look for it. There's stuff in the caption I probably might not remember to say, but yeah, the main points are here. Be true to you. That's a lesson from Rachel's Choice. It doesn't matter what worked for someone else, you are unique. To thine own self be true. Sometimes people like to tell us, okay, well, a classic example is, oh, he cheated and, he confessed and, and we're good now. That is someone's experience. You're going to hear different stories of what worked for other people and stuff. It's best to know yourself and to be true to yourself, what you can stand and what you can't. All in God's time. When it comes to marriage, right timing is always better than fast timing. I think I made that point across through one of the other slides. So we're not in a hurry here, guys. I know it might feel really bad. You've been waiting for so long and everything, your expectation. Hope in the Lord still. Do not be hasty to join with someone who may not be right for you. Date purposefully, yes. You need to be thinking strategically, intentionally from the minute you're dating. Be careful who you date. You may end up married to them. Our emotions are very funny. They can convince us that white is, or black is gray and not actually black, and yeah, so be careful how you choose, even who you date. Okay, fools rush in. If he feels like he's running somewhere, like he's always pressuring you, he's always on your case, he's constantly with you and, talking about marriage on your third date and stuff, and you feel like, boy, slow down now. Stop, wait, and watch. Remember, only fools rush in. Don't let somebody bamboozle you into this thing called marriage. And they might try to do that when they see that, okay, maybe you're 36 and you've been waiting for so long and you're waiting for your miracle, and they'll come and present themselves as the miracle. My sister, please, I beg. Wait, don't let this person pressure you. Be discerning. Just because he goes to church doesn't mean he's a Christian. Remember, Jesus is warning about wolves in sheep's clothing. It's more reason why we need to allow time. Do not take someone else's word that they're Christian. You got to wait for that fruit. You got to wait to see the fruit. And if you're seeing something that's not right, you got to add that. You got to take note of that and add it to your decision-making process. So,
yeah, that's a valid point. I mean, I've seen marriages where they went in, the guy professed Christian, quote unquote. After the first argument, he stopped going to church to spite her, and started picking up all kinds of habits, smoking weed, this one, that one, just to show that, I'm not in your stuff, So that's caught her off guard and by surprise. Where did this come from? I thought, anyway, so people can actually mask wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yeah. So you need to wait for that fruit. Got to see it. Judge righteously. Yeah. People we're so keen on not judging. But Jesus said, judge righteous judgment.
Good on paper, right?
Yeah. Don't judge a book by its cover. And beautiful outside doesn't mean ugly inside. This is a clear lesson from Rachel's choice, because there was someone else that was vying for her attention and her affections. And she went with, she judged this person, by what, people said about him and stuff. And she didn't really get to know him as well. She ruled him out. So as she did not want to, she didn't want to judge someone else who, she should have put for the ringer. She judged someone else. So we're always judging. The point is to do it righteously and to examine everything so that we have all the right facts. Know what you want. If you don't like it while you're dating, you'll hate it when you're married. So watch out for those things that they're doing now that you really don't like. Maybe you have told them about it and they're not changing it. You don't want to go into marriage thinking when you're married, it will get better. No, when you're married, it tends to get worse. So yeah, it's true. Know him too. If you haven't observed his care for his family, do not agree to marry him. Some people might say, oh, my family is this, my family is that, or, I'm not close to my family, or, I'm the loner here, in fact, you are my family, you're all I care about. I beg, walk away from someone that says you are my family, you're all I care about. If he doesn't care about anyone right now, when you marry him, he's going to go and be complaining about you, that his family is this, his wife is this, whatever is that, and that person he's toasting is now his family, whatever. So please, if you have not observed how he cares for his family, don't agree to marry someone like that. Know your why. There are many reasons people marry. Not everyone is in it for love. Be sure to know your why. So you have to be honest with yourself. Why do you really want to get married? And why this person? Why this person? That you want to, what makes them a good husband? Father. Don't forget that father part, because you probably have plans to have kids. You got to factor in the fact that this person is going to be looking after your children. Know your why. Are you getting married so you can have babies? Is this a person you want to father your children? Are you getting married because it's time? Are you getting married because your parents say if you don't get married, you're not getting your inheritance? Please know your why. Okay, because your why has to be what will have to sustain you when it gets rocky. You always go back to your why, your reason, when things get rocky. It's okay to want love. By that, I am talking about romantic love. It's okay to want that in your marriage. We're not like who said that? Body no be firewood. Yeah, that's the expression. We as human beings, we're emotional creatures. And emotional abuse begins when we deny that about ourselves, about that need. That is an emotional abuse. I wrote a story, actually the first book I finished, An Emotional Affair. And this lady had an affair emotionally with a guy who was giving her the attention her husband was not. Do you understand? So you can't say, okay, he was busy, he did not even know that, but she was neglected. Her mind was just, and so this romance thing is not a joke. You have to foster it in your marriage. And the neglect of that is like neglecting to feed someone. It's starvation, it's abuse. Okay. If you want romance, but don't have those romantic feelings, those loving feelings, no, feel them from him. It's okay to walk away. One thing that people say a lot in this love matter is love is an act of the will. It's not about feelings. True, it's an act of the will, but do you understand that love has In fact, I wrote about it in Marriage Davidson. Please look into it. But it's also the emotional element, the passion is there. What sent Christ to the cross wasn't simply his will, but his passion for us. It wasn't simply his will. He suffered on that cross for his passion for us, for the passion for us, not just his will. We have to realize the importance of passion in this thing. And we have to decide that we need it. It is what makes us fight. If it's not there, the will die. It will die too quickly. It's okay to say no. If in doubt, say no. Even when surrounded by many witnesses, they are only witnesses, not partakers. Okay? It is your decision. It's okay to say no.
Yeah.
So make your own decision. Be careful who you listen to. Not everyone has your best interests at heart. Be sure to own your choice. People will give you lots of advice when you're getting ready to get married, and sometimes it's their own ambitions. Like your parents, they want you to be happy and have kids. They're looking forward to grandkids now. At 35, someone has come along. Take him, grab him, both hands. Do you understand? They're desperate. Your auntie, your uncle, everybody, they said they might even have had a dream about this person for you. Madam, it's your decision. Please be sure of it. Own it. Yeah. Take stock of everything. Make your own decision. And that's the end of 12 lessons from Rachel's Choice. I hope that helped somebody and made things clearer in terms of the matter of choice or choosing.
That's good. Let's unmute our phones and give Ufuomaee a round of applause. This is an amazing speech.
Thank you so much, Ufuomaee.
Thank you so much, Ufuomaee.
Thank you so
It's
much.
really
That's
amazing. So good.
Well done, Ufuomaee. Well done. Well
Thank
done.
you.
So well done. Thank you so much. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I know, you had sent me a chat last night that you were so nervous having to go through this. And I'm very, very sure one big concern from you will be, are they going to view this? Are they going to view Rachel's story as my story? So I was glad you clarified that in the end. The Naive Wife is a trilogy, is fictional, highly fictional. But as you know, our experiences and all will always pop up in some of the things that we do. No doubt about that. We have to be transparent about that. But it's a fictional story, which I want to encourage all of you to read. I think the book is sold in bookstores in Lagos. Anywhere good books are sold, you will definitely find that book. Now, to the bonanza. During the book launch, somebody was really impressed with the book, as I was, and made a huge donation for that book. And Ufuomaee, being who she is, someone of principle, said, okay, someone's made a donation and doesn't even want more than one copy of the book. She's deciding to give away 50 copies of the book to Kingdom Community folks for free. Those who want to read the book.
Of the trilogy. Of the 3 books.
All
gets 3 books.
Yeah, so all 3 books. If you haven't bought the book, 50 of you have a chance to read that book for free. In addition, she's also offering to mark down the prices of another 50. So the first 50 are taken, the next 50 will be marked down. But I really encourage you guys to get the book. It's an amazing book. She'll try and set up time in HOP. HOP is a facility we use for meetings. Ufuomaee, it's a place where you make reservations to use. And she may give the books out there, sign a copy and all that stuff. But really looking forward for that event where she'll give out 50 copies of the book. Ufuomaee, thank you so much for doing that. We appreciate your generosity. God bless you heavily for that. Again, folks, lots of singles on the call. You've heard from the hearts. Marriage is a very important and serious institution. You just don't jump into by whim, or because your friend has been there for a while and has had 2 babies, and you both started out from secondary school, university, and here you are. You still haven't found the guy. You know, don't put both of you on the same scale. Everybody has his own race to run. And I know there's that emotional issue around, you know, I need mine, Lord, why now? Lord, when? God, when? And all that stuff we do. But the Lord knows what's best for each and every one of us, and He has plans for all of us, you know. When yours come, you will really be happy if you wait on the Lord and He brings yours, because there are treacherous waters in so many places we go. The enemy is just not happy, wanting to get us trapped in things that will 3, 4, 5 years down the road will just, you know, be unmasked, and then we leave hell right here on earth. You know, don't get set up. There's some men out there that just want to latch on people. I mean, the men nowadays that I know, they prey on girls who are doing financially well. You know, they just don't want to work anymore. You know, homes are breeding lazy men, and they're breeding entitled men who don't want to work. All they want to do is just look for somebody to prey on. Be very mindful of that, girls. Be very mindful of that. All the tips she's mentioned here, they move into your home and you think, oh, he likes me, he likes my, he just doesn't have a place to stay, you know? And your home is his retirement plan. Frankly, it's his retirement plan. And that's just for some men. Girls as well are into all that nonsense of looking for a retirement plan as well. I don't want to suffer. I want to be a kept woman and all that kind of stuff. Well, somebody's going to keep you and deal with you at the same time. You know, if you open your eyes and go look for something to do, you know, be your own self. When you come together, you're coming together as one, but you are individuals in the first instance. You know, have something to do that you can contribute to the home, and not just become someone splurges on, and then you go on Instagram, oh, look at what my honey bought for me, look at this it gave me, look at that, and you're happy. Meanwhile, at night, you're not as happy. You're putting up happy faces on Instagram, sad faces at night alone. You know, the rate of suicide, and we never used to hear of suicides. All of a sudden, young men are thinking of suicides because of terrible wives. You know, so let's deal with those social issues as well. They have solutions. All things have solutions, and it starts with wisdom. The right amount of wisdom, going in, going out. We have a community of people we can rely on, we can talk to. Do not be hasty in making a marital decision. Give it time. When somebody proposes to you, I mean, don't let anybody shock you into a marriage proposal that makes it to Bella Ninja or Instagram or stuff, because you want to dress up the whole place and you are thrilled. Meanwhile, something is not in your stomach. You know something was not right. But because of the glamour of the setup, your friends are cheering you on and all. If you're not ready for that proposal, apologize and say, please, I'm not ready. I can't deal with this now. Be bold. Your future is at stake. Otherwise, we're going to be doing so 5 years down the road and getting people in to come counsel and talk. It's a lot of resources, a lot of time to waste on all that, you know. So, great discussion. Ufuomaee, God bless you. Thanks for accepting this. Next week, we're going to have Bimbola Banjo Osagi come talk to us about the walk on water. That's a discussion on faith that I really love to hear. Bimbola, I believe you're getting ready for that. And then Agnes Keke is going to talk to us about the crying Jesus. She was hinting me about, what does Jesus crying mean? And I'm like, why don't you come talk to us about that teaching moment? So she's getting ready for that. Good sessions ahead. So I'm going to try and populate the slate. I think I'll also have a teaching moment this month of November, and then make sure we have it all populated going into December, and we can plan ahead for the holidays. But yeah, it's 12 o'clock. Another session of teaching moment has ended. Let's just pray.
I want to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks Ufuomaee.
I want to say thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much for coming, Ufuomaee. Such a
Thank
joy
you.
to listen to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Father, in Jesus' name, we just thank you for another session today. Thank you for the learning, the understanding. Thank you for granting Ufuomaee grace to speak wisely and boldly concerning the mystery of marriage, Lord. Help us, even as we have listened, help us to understand, internalize, and accept some of the things we're doing, and make adjustments for those of us that are going through all of this now. Help us to make the right adjustments in you, for you always have the best thoughts concerning us in your heart. We bless you, Lord, this day. Help us for the rest of the day. We pray in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen.